Do you believe in ghosts? Dictation. If you'd like to visit some places in the United States that have a reputation for being haunted, you can buy the book The National Directory of Haunted Places by Dennis Houck, a well-known authority on paranormal phenomena. The book contains several thousand carefully researched places in countries around the world and mentions many spooky houses in the United States. The most famous ghost in the White House in Washington, D.C., one that has been seen by presidents and their families on many occasions, is Abraham Lincoln, the 16th president, who was assassinated in 1865. Lincoln had many tragedies in his personal life, one of which was the death of his son, Willie, at age 11. Lincoln believed in the afterlife and tried several times to contact his son through seances in the White House. Lincoln also had premonitions of his own death, and once told his secretary that he knew he was going to die in office and that he could envision his casket in the rotunda room of the White House.
Dictation 2. Judge for yourself. Madame Zelda was a psychic who claimed she was able to read people's auras and predict the future. However, after she underwent some tests at the hospital and was given a CAT scan, she insisted that it affected her abilities. She asserted that she was no longer able to read auras, foresee coming events, or even help the police find missing persons as she had in the past. Every time she used her psychic powers, she just got headaches. She sued the hospital.
The verdict. The jury ruled for Madame Zelda and awarded her $1 million. However, the judge, who had the final word, overturned the decision and threw out the verdict.
Election Day in the USA. Dictation. In the United States, presidential elections are held every 4 years. They are always held on the first Tuesday after the first Monday in the month of November. In most states, Election Day is not a holiday from work or school. The president and the vice president are elected for 4 years. Only natural-born citizens of the United States are allowed to be president. Presidents are required to be at least 35 years old. There are two major political parties, the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. The vice presidential candidates are selected by the presidential candidates. Both people are nominated by their political parties at a national convention several months before Election Day. On Election Day, millions of Americans go to the polls to vote. Polls are located in schools, churches, and public buildings. Polls are open from early in the morning until 7 or 8 in the evening. Most polls use a voting machine. People always vote by secret ballot. Today, all United States citizens 18 and older can vote if they want to. In presidential elections, about 75% of Americans vote. On election night, the votes are tabulated by computer, and the winner is usually announced by midnight.
The Olympic Games. The Ancient Games. Ancient Greece gave birth to the Olympics more than 2,000 years ago in 776 BC. The games ended in 394 A.D. During those 1,000 years, the ancient games were festivals to honor the many gods that Greeks worshipped. Olympia, the town where the most powerful god Zeus was worshipped, held the first Olympics. The first Olympic Games consisted of no more than one foot race, but as the games became more popular, other events were added, such as horse racing, boxing, chariot racing, and wrestling. Young men of wealth dominated the early games, but later, as other sports festivals became more and more popular and offered big cash prizes to winners, men of all classes of society could make sports a full-time career. The Olympic Games never offered cash prizes. It was the glory of winning that meant everything to young men ages 12 to 17. The modern games. The Olympics were revived in 1896 and were held every 4 years. The modern games were later divided into the Winter and Summer Games. Now the Winter and Summer Games alternate every 2 years. Fewer countries and sports are represented at the Winter Games because fewer athletes come from countries with high mountains and snowfields. The Summer Games attract thousands of athletes from over 200 countries and include many more types of sports, such as swimming and running. Many Olympic athletes today think of the Olympics as more than just winning the gold, silver, or bronze medal. They believe that doing your personal best brings respect and understanding for all athletes playing the same game for peace and humanity.
Birthdays around the world. Dictation. Germany. Germans take birthdays seriously, sometimes receiving a half-day vacation from work. Flowers and wine are common gifts.
Japan. The birthday child wears entirely new clothes to mark the occasion. Certain birthdays are more important than others. For example, usually only the birthdays of 60, 70, 79, 88, and 99 rate gifts.
United States. A cake is made and candles are put on top based on how old the person is. After everyone sings the Happy Birthday song, the person makes a wish and blows out the candles. If they blow them all out with one blow, their birthday wish will come true.
Denmark. A flag is flown outside a window to designate that someone who lives in that house is having a birthday. Presents are placed around the child's bed while they are sleeping, so they will see them immediately upon awakening.
England. When you reach 80, 90, or 100 years of age, you receive a telegram from the Queen. In the U.S., when you reach 100, you receive a letter from the President.
China. Age 30 is considered becoming an adult, and there is usually quite a celebration. Birthdays are traditionally celebrated for adults who have reached at least 60 years of age. Lo mein noodles are often served.
Mexico. The piñata, usually made out of papier-mâché and in the form of an animal, is filled with goodies and hung from the ceiling. Children take turns hitting the piñata so candy and small toys spill out for everyone to share. Also, when a daughter is 15, the birthday is celebrated with a special mass in her honor. A party is then given to introduce her to everyone as a young woman. The father dances a waltz with her.
Ireland. The birthday child is lifted upside down and bumped on the floor for good luck. The number of bumps given is the age of the child plus 1 for extra good luck.
Golden wedding anniversary. Dictation. The Clarks were looking forward to June 20th, when their 6 sons and their sons' wives and children were coming to their Utah home for an anniversary celebration organized by their son Ron. Everyone was due to arrive by June 19. Each couple had 1, 2, or 3 children. From the following clues, can you match the sons with their wives, determine how many children each couple had, deduce their time of arrival, and figure out where each family lived? 1. One couple crossed no state or national borders in getting to the homecoming. 2. The couples arrived June 19 at 8 a.m., 10 a.m., noon, 2 p.m., 3 p.m., and 5 p.m. 3. The couples from Germany and Japan have the same number of children. 4. George has only 1 child, a boy. Eileen has only 2 girls, and Carol has only 1 girl. 5. The son from Texas arrived at 10 a.m. 6. Pat, who hails from Wyoming, has 3 children and did not arrive either first or last. 7. Frank flew in from Germany and arrived after noon, 2 hours after his brother from Japan. 8. Bert and Bob don't have the same number of children. The son from Texas has 1 less child than the son from Wyoming. The son from Arizona has 1 more child than Frank. 9. Wendy arrived after Jill, who arrived after Linda. But Linda arrived before Eileen, who arrived before noon. 10. Keith drove all night and arrived before 10 a.m. with his 3 hungry children. 11. Bert packed his wife and 2 children into the car that morning and arrived 3 hours after Frank.
You be the judge. Dictation. Case 1, New York. A driver who was racing down the street at 100 miles per hour crashed into a limousine carrying a wedding party. Instantly killed were the groom, age 27, and his brother, age 29, who was the best man. The bride, age 24, died 18 days later without knowing of her husband's death. The driver of the car that killed them was sentenced to 3 years in prison.
Case 2, Texas. A man got into an argument with a police officer and bit off part of the officer's ear. The man was sentenced to 10 years in prison.
Case 3, Massachusetts. A 14-year-old girl was raped by a 38-year-old man. She said that her life would never be the same again. The judge told her to get over it and sentenced the man to 6 months in prison.
Email spam. Dictation. 1. Subject: a guaranteed university diploma. From educate@collDIP.741.pm. Do you want to earn the respect in your community that you've always wanted? You can receive a bachelor's, master's, or doctorate diploma from us and hang it on your office wall. Our president will automatically accept you through our open admissions policy. There are no exams to take, classes to attend, or textbooks to buy. We award all levels of diplomas from well-known, non-accredited universities in any field of study you wish, including engineering, teaching, computers, business, or any other discipline. Just call 1-814-453-2312 anytime.
2. Subject: lose it fast. From weight loss at diet.761.vn. You can lose 1 pound a week on Dr. Mayer's simple and quick no-pill diet. You can go from size 16 to 14 in 1 week. After the second week on this diet, your clothes will be falling off, and you'll have to go out and buy a new wardrobe. Call today, 1-309-987-8876. Only $49.99. Questions about appearance. Dictation. School administrators are girding for a fashion showdown in school corridors as racy and revealing back-to-school fashions, inspired by navel-bearing pop stars like Christina Aguilera and Britney Spears, flood clothing retailers. While teen fashion tastes have long clashed with adult preferences, principals say the abundance of skin-revealing styles for girls this year threatens to have students arriving dressed for rock concerts, not for the classroom. Last year, the F.A. Day Middle School in Newton clarified the school's dress code, adding specifics about covering the stomach and hips. But the code is only a recommendation because the school is unclear about the legality of regulating dress at all, said the principal, Paul Stein. The matter, school officials say, is complicated by questions of personal taste, First Amendment rights, sensitive issues of female body image, and the tricky reality that the same outfit may look plain on one girl and provocative on another.
Dictation 2. Judge for yourself. In Alaska, a lawyer, while pleading a case, was asked by the judge to wear a suit and tie rather than the more casual attire of a flannel shirt and jeans he was wearing. When the lawyer refused to alter his mode of dress, he was held in contempt of court. The lawyer challenged the contempt citation, arguing that it violated his constitutional right of privacy and liberty to choose his own style of dress. Also, it discriminated against men.
The verdict. The court ruled against the lawyer, stating that the court had the right to establish a minimum code, and that a coat and tie fell within a reasonable standard of dress. As to the question of discrimination, the court required women to wear conservative business clothing, which made the standard the same.
Dictation 3. Judge for yourself. Albert had grown his hair to 10 inches in preparation for his special hairstyle. He went to the hair salon bearing a photograph of the style he wanted. After the haircut, he was furious because the stylist had cut the hair on top of his head far too short. He was ridiculed by his friends and had to resort to wearing a baseball cap all the time. He went to a psychiatrist for help. He sued the salon for $10,000 in damages.
The verdict. The court ruled against Albert and dismissed the case because the court held that the hair can easily be grown back. Cheating in college. Dictation. 1. Cheating in the classroom isn't just about copying someone's paper or writing answers on a crib sheet. With the Internet, cheating has gone high-tech. 2. Hundreds of websites offer term papers, class notes, and exams. Students may pay up to $350 for a research paper bought through the Internet. 3. Plagiarism is the most common form of cheating, and university professors admit that it is hard to catch. It depends on the vigilance of faculty members and a certain degree of luck. 4. More than 75% of 2,000 students from 21 colleges nationwide admitted to cheating last year. 5. Experts say that most students cheat because of grade pressure. 6. Research on college cheating shows that men and women equally admitted to academic dishonesty. Business and engineering majors were most likely to cheat compared with other majors. 7. Colleges are doing more to prevent cheating, and universities work with international students who come from cultures that allow citing another person's work without quotation marks or footnotes. 8. At some schools, possible punishment for cheating includes expulsion, but most professors simply give the student an F in the course.
What would you do if... Dictation. 1. One hot summer afternoon, while walking through a parking lot at a mall, you notice a dog suffering badly from the heat inside a locked car. What would you do? Anything?
2. If you went to a dinner party at your boss's house and were offered some food you had never tried, which looked awful, would you try it, even if it looked strange or smelled weird?
3. Which sex has an easier life in your culture, male or female? Have you ever wished that you were of the opposite sex?
4. You are driving late at night in a safe but deserted neighborhood when a cat suddenly darts in front of your car. You slam on the brakes, but you hit the cat. Would you stop to see how injured the cat was? If you did, and found that the cat was dead, but had a name tag, would you contact the owner?
5. Would you ever consider taking a week-long vacation alone? If yes, where would you go and what would you do?
6. Would you rather play a game with someone more or less talented than you? Why or why not?
7. Would you like to be famous someday? Why or why not?
8. If someone offered you a pill that made you immortal, would you take it? The pill is free, has no side effects, and could also be given to any number of people of your choosing.
Short business decisions. Dictation. 1. A valuable breakthrough has been recently made by one of your competitors. It is going to improve the quality of his product and reduce the cost of production. Your product will become uncompetitive. Someone comes to you and offers to sell you details of your competitor's research, which led to his technical breakthrough. What do you do?
2. Your company has recently acquired a villa in Spain as part of the assets of a merger. You're hoping to sign an important contract with the local government. You hear that the wife of their chief negotiator is ill and needs to spend the winter in a warm, dry climate. Do you offer him the use of your empty villa in Spain?
3. Your company needs to hire a senior executive for an overseas subsidiary. After interviewing the candidates, the best candidate by far is a 35-year-old woman. Her husband is a writer, and they have 2 children. She is a very valuable member of your staff, and she has made it known that she may leave the company if she is not given this position. On the other hand, as a woman, She might not be well received by the company that she would be working for. This might affect the volume of business done by your company. What do you do?
4. The peak sales time for your company's product is always in the 3 months before Christmas. In October, you find a minor fault in the product. It is not dangerous, but will shorten the normal life of the product. Withdrawing it at this time would mean losing your sales. Would you recommend withdrawing it right now?
Workplace ethics. Dictogloss. 1. Your business venture fails and you owe your creditors $15,000. You can avoid payment by declaring bankruptcy. Do you? 2. An official of a large company demands a payment in return for giving you a lucrative contract. Do you pay? 3. You make long-distance calls as part of your work for a middle-sized firm. Do you make private calls if you know they cannot be traced? 4. You are planning to quit in 5 months when your boss suddenly gives you a high-paying management job. You still intend to quit. Do you tell your boss now? 5. A friend who needs a job applies at your business. Someone who is better qualified also applies. Do you hire your friend?
Dictation. Judge for yourself. Todd was the executor of his underage niece's estate because she had been left in his care after his sister and her husband were killed. Todd was a gambler and learned of a sure thing in a horse race. He borrowed $5,000 from his niece's account to place the bet. Todd won and doubled his money. He returned the $5,000 to the account and kept the rest. When what he had done was discovered, a friend of his niece helped her sue for the winnings.
The verdict. The court ruled against Todd. Not only did he have to return the winnings, but the court also relieved him of his duties as an executor for his niece. What's so funny? Dictation. 1. A woman got on a bus holding a baby. The bus driver said, "That's the ugliest baby I've ever seen." In a huff, the woman slammed her fare into the fare box and took an aisle seat in the rear of the bus. The man seated next to her sensed that she was agitated and asked her what was wrong. "The bus driver insulted me." The man sympathized and said, "Why, he's a public servant and shouldn't say things to insult passengers." "You're right," she said. "I think I'll go back up there and give him a piece of my mind." "That's a good idea," the man said. "Here, let me hold your monkey."
2. A guy goes to a psychiatrist because he hasn't been feeling mentally well. When the psychiatrist asks him to describe what is wrong, the guy tells him that he has been feeling like a dog lately. The psychiatrist then asks his patient, "How long have you been feeling this way?" The guy replies, "Ever since I was a puppy."
3. A person who speaks 2 languages is bilingual. A person who speaks 3 languages is trilingual. A person who speaks 4 languages is multilingual. What is a person who speaks 1 language? An American.
Limericks and tongue twisters. Dictation. 1. There once was an old man from Nesser whose knowledge grew lesser and lesser. It at last grew so small he knew nothing at all, and now he's a college professor.
2. There was a young fellow named Sid who loved to go fishing for squid. But he caught quite a giant who was very defiant and ate Sid all up. Yes, it did. Poor kid.
The New World Language. Dictation. It is everywhere. Some 380 million people speak it as their first language, and perhaps 2/3 as many again as their second. 1 billion are learning it. About 1/3 of the world's population are in some sense exposed to it, and by 2050, it is predicted, half the world will be more or less proficient in it. It is the language of globalization, of international business, politics, and diplomacy. It is the language of computers and the Internet. You'll see it on posters in Côte d'Ivoire, you'll hear it in pop songs in Tokyo, and you'll read it in official documents in Phnom Penh. Deutsche Welle broadcasts in it. Björk, an Icelander, sings in it. French business schools teach in it. It is the medium of expression in cabinet meetings in Bolivia. Truly, the tongue spoken back in the 1300s only by the low people of England has come a long way. It is now the global language. How come? Not because English is easy. True, genders are simple, since English relies on it as the pronoun for all inanimate nouns, reserving masculine for bona fide males and feminine for females, and countries and ships. But the verbs tend to be irregular, the grammar bizarre, and the match between spelling and pronunciation a nightmare. English is now so widely spoken in so many places that umpteen versions have evolved, some so peculiar that native speakers may have trouble understanding each other.
Dictation 2. 1. They are too close to the door to close it. 2. There was a row among the oarsmen about how to row. 3. I shed a tear about the tear in my new shirt. 4. A farm can produce produce. 5. The dump was so full it had to refuse refuse. 6. The present is a good time to present the present. 7. The insurance for the invalid was invalid. 8. The bandage was wound around the wound. 9. The soldier decided to desert in the desert.
Dictation 3. An international exchange student is hanging out with his new group of friends at a party. He is confident in his ability to hold a conversation with everyone, even crack a joke or two. Then someone offers one of his friends a drink. The friend replies, I'm like okay. The student thinks, that wasn't in my textbook. Slang and filler speech is so ingrained in our everyday conversation. The word like has infiltrated so many young minds that no sentence is left untouched by these non-fluencies. The trend is not new. Since the 70s, California's Valley Girl talk has plagued America's youth from coast to coast. According to Professor Richard Catula of Northeastern University's Communication Studies Department, these filler words allow teenagers who feel vulnerable expressing their beliefs a way out. He translated the use of like as, what I just said I may not mean. These filler words are referred to as negative speech, or not thinking before speaking. Those interjected likes give unsure youths a moment to soften or manipulate what could have otherwise been a strong, personal, confrontational statement. Often the result is that the students sound less intelligent.
Trivia contest. 1. How many people are there in the world? 2. Where are most American cars manufactured in the United States? 3. How often are presidential elections held in the U.S.? 4. Who wrote The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn? 5. What does BLT mean? 6. Where can you buy a Whopper Jr.? 7. Who is the richest woman in the world? 8. In what year did Americans first land on the moon? 9. What is the most common first name in the world? 10. What is the best-selling ice cream flavor in the U.S.? 11. How long has your teacher taught in this program?
Who would say that? Dictation. 1. It's a 1999 and in perfect condition, and it only has 50,000 miles.
2. Do you have any spare change?
3. We expect to be taking off in about 10 minutes.
4. I think that Snoopy should go on a diet.
5. Ugga mugga hubba hubba gulak.
6. Would you like to try something different this time? A perm or a frost?
7. I predict that next year you'll meet the perfect man and get married.
8. It's a home run for Reggie. Now it's tied 2-2.
9. May I see your driver's license and registration, please?
10. It's a beautiful top-floor 2-bedroom.
11. Open wide.
12. The fine is 10 cents a day for each one that is overdue.
Don't be fooled. Dictation. 1. Mary Jones was born on December 27th, yet her birthday is always in the summer. How can this be?
2. Frank was walking down Main Street when it started to rain. He did not have an umbrella, and he wasn't wearing a hat. His clothes were soaked, yet not a hair on his head got wet. How could this happen?
3. There is an ancient invention still used in parts of the world today that allows people to see through walls. What is it?
4. A taxi driver took a group of passengers to the train station. The station is normally an hour away, but with terrible traffic, it took a full hour and a half. On the return trip, the traffic was still as heavy, and yet it took only 90 minutes. Why?
5. Do they have a 4th of July in England?
6. Some months have 30 days, others have 31 days. How many have 28 days?
7. What 5-letter word becomes shorter when you add 2 letters to it?
8. A farmer had 15 horses. All but 9 died. How many did he have left?
9. A woman from New York married 10 different men from that city, yet she didn't break any laws. None of the men died, and she never divorced. How was this possible?
10. Which one of the following words does not belong with the others, and why? Father, aunt, sister, cousin, mother, uncle. Learning styles. Dictation. Here is a description of one kind of learner, the logical learner. These children are very mathematically inclined. They enjoy problems, particularly if they are math-related. They are similar to Mr. Spock on Star Trek in that they are very logical, straightforward types of learners. They will plague you with questions on how things work, how things relate to one another, and why things are here. Their favorite toys as young children were building blocks and pattern puzzles. Answer their ongoing questions with as much patience as you can muster, and one day they may become engineers. In order to determine what kind of a learner you are, psychologists will give you a learning style inventory test. Here are some examples of the type of question you may be asked. You will be asked to check the statements that are true about you. I prefer to fiddle with things while I listen or talk to people. I prefer to read a map rather than listen to someone giving me directions. I gesture a lot when I explain things. I enjoy doing more than one thing at a time. I often nibble while I study. When I read, I often try to feel the content or even act out parts of what I read.
What used to be. Dictation. 1. Before electricity, people used to. 2. The country that is now called Thailand. 3. Before word processors, people used to. 4. Millions of years ago. 5. Before doctors became licensed, barbers used to. 6. In many ancient and not so ancient cultures. 7. Before the car was invented, people used to. 8. The country that used to be called Ceylon. 9. People used to think that potatoes. 10. Before television, people used to.
All about weather. Dictation. Joke 1. I had just moved north and was feeling apprehensive about the severity of the winters. My anxious questions about the weather brought this reply from a native. Ma'am, we have 4 seasons here: early winter, midwinter, late winter, and next winter.
Joke 2. The Michaels family owned a small farm in Canada just yards away from the North Dakota border. Their land had been the subject of a minor dispute between Canada and the United States for generations. Mrs. Michaels, who had just celebrated her 90th birthday, lived on the farm with her son and 3 grandchildren. One day, her son came into her room holding a letter. "I just got some news, Mom," he said. "The government has come to an agreement with the people in Washington. They've decided that our land is really part of the United States. We have the right to approve or disapprove of the agreement. What do you think?" "What do I think?" his mother said. "Jump at it. Call them right now and tell them we accept. I don't think I could stand another one of those Canadian winters."
Dictation 2. 1. It was a mixed bag of precipitation. 2. It's raining cats and dogs. 3. I'll take a rain check. 4. Don't rain on my parade. 5. I can weather the storm. 6. I'm under the weather. 7. It was a real snow job. 8. I was snowed under with work. 9. The problems snowballed by the hour. 10. I was thunderstruck. 11. The idea came out of the blue. 12. She was on cloud 9. 13. Her head was in the clouds.
Facts about drinking. Dictation. 1. Some people can drink a lot without ever getting drunk. 2. Approximately 40% of fatal highway accidents are alcohol-related. 3. Switching drinks will make you drunker than staying with one kind of alcohol. 4. You can coat the stomach with milk or food to slow down the rate of intoxication. 5. The best way to sober up is to drink coffee and take a cold shower. 6. Safety experts say that 1 out of every 2 Americans will be victimized by a drunk driver. 7. A person can overdose on alcohol. 8. It is easy to spot an alcoholic. 9. Drinking during pregnancy can affect the unborn child. 10. Most alcoholics are middle-aged or older. 11. Children of alcoholics are more likely to develop alcoholism. 12. Binge drinking is defined as 5 drinks within an hour for men and 4 drinks within an hour for women. 13. A heavy drinker is someone who drinks 4 to 5 drinks every night. 14. All drinkers are drug users. 15. Underage drinkers account for 25% of the alcohol consumed in the United States.
Increasing birth size. Dictogloss. 1. The percentage of babies that weigh at least 8 pounds 8 ounces increased from 3% to 14% from 1970 to 1985. 2. In a land of king-size and super-size everything, big babies are generally taken as a sign of good health. 3. Big babies are stronger, healthier, and in possession of better immune systems. 4. We're getting too big and using up too many resources.
Dictation. With regard to evolution, we are in a whole new ball game, said James Boster, an anthropologist at the University of Connecticut. Through most of human history, babies were born in primitive conditions, but lots of women died in childbirth. Now, with access to good medical care, the previous consequences of having babies that were too big are remedied surgically. In the last 200 years, growth has been dramatic. In 1760, Norwegian soldiers averaged 5'3". American soldiers, drafted for World War I, averaged 5 feet tall and 140 pounds. Today, the average Californian male is 5 feet 10.5 inches and weighs 188 pounds. What remains to be seen is how much larger people will grow. To project how big humans may become, anthropologists look to the past. More than 1,000,000 years ago, our African ancestors stood about 6 feet tall, according to Daniel Lieberman, a professor at Harvard University. But as early humans moved from a hunter-gatherer society to agriculture, food variety decreased, disease increased, and people migrated to colder climates, favoring shorter, squatter physiques. And as a result of all these factors, heights shrank. It is only in the last 2 centuries that humans have begun to play catch-up. They haven't peaked yet, but they are getting close. In the Netherlands, home to the tallest population in the world, the average height of the men is nearly 6 feet 1 inch. It appears that genetics won't allow humans to get much bigger. The difference between men and women, which has been shrinking for thousands of years, may someday disappear, anthropologists say. Thousands of years ago, men were 30% taller than women. Between 30,000 and 50,000 years ago, men and women grew noticeably closer in size. Today, height differences average 7%. The gender gap is directly related to mating habits, scientists say. The more polygamous a species, the greater the size differential between men and women.
Nutrition and obesity. Dictation. Nutrition. 1. Low-fat milk has more calcium than whole milk. 2. Multivitamin pills can give you extra energy. 3. It's better to eat a larger lunch and a smaller dinner. 4. People who do not eat meat, chicken, or fish are not as healthy as those who do. 5. Fresh vegetables are always more nutritious than frozen. 6. If you want to make one change in your diet, cutting down on fat would be better than snacking less often. 7. A glass or 2 of wine or beer will help you sleep well. 8. Laughter helps keep you in good condition. 9. When you're on a diet, it's better to drink white wine than red. 10. You've been asked to serve the steak. A good serving size would be the same size as a deck of cards. 11. Butter contains more fat than margarine. 12. Women who eat at least 5 servings of fruits and vegetables daily reduce their risk of diabetes by 40%.
Dictation 2. Obesity. Despite a seeming obsession with their health, diet, and exercise, Americans are getting fatter and fatter. New information shows that more than half of all adults in the United States are overweight, and the number of obese people, defined as being 30% over the ideal weight, increased from 12% in 1991 to 18% in 1998. Researchers say they are stunned at how fast Americans are adding extra pounds, and some say that obesity, which perhaps kills as many as 325,000 every year, should be considered a real public health problem and not simply a cosmetic one. Dr. George Blackburn, director of the Division of Nutrition at Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center, said that over the last 15 years, Americans have become aware that diet and exercise can reduce risk for many health complications, such as high blood pressure, heart disease, or diabetes, but they just aren't ready to do it yet. Fewer people are doing what they know they should do. Instead, everybody just wants a magic bullet, Blackburn said. But they don't realize if they can spend an extra few minutes each day and as little as 200 calories less a day, they would be 20 pounds lighter by the end of the year. 2 reasons why Americans are gaining weight are easy to spot. They eat out in restaurants at least 2 or 3 times a week. They may join a health club, but after 6 months, 50% of them quit.
Exercise. Dictogloss. 1. If you do more exercise, your appetite will increase and keep you from losing weight. 2. Sports drinks can help you exercise more safely and effectively. 3. The more you sweat during exercise, the more fat you lose. 4. Physical exercise is not necessary for losing weight. Dieting alone is enough. 5. Strength training tends to give women a bulky masculine physique.
Dictation. Ruth Rothfarb of Cambridge was an elderly athlete who inspired many by competing in the Boston Marathon, 26 miles, the Tufts 10K, 10 kilometers, and other long-distance races. Mrs. Rothfarb, who died Wednesday at age 96, began running at the age of 69. She began running competitively a few years later. She competed in several Boston marathons and Tufts 10K races, as well as long-distance races in Atlanta, Los Angeles, New Zealand, and Thailand before her retirement from competitive running at the age of 92. She was born in Russia and immigrated to the United States as a teenager in 1913. After her marriage, she worked full-time, maintaining a home, raising 2 children, and helping her husband run the family clothing business. At the age of 67, she found herself with time on her hands after her husband died, their business was sold, and her children were grown. "I had to do something," she said. "I wasn't going to sit around doing nothing." She began taking walks along the Charles River and around Fresh Pond. When the jogging craze came to her neighborhood, she picked up her speed. "If they can do it, I can too," she said. "It's simple enough. All you have to do is pick up your feet and go." In 1976, she accompanied her son, Herbert, to a 10-kilometer race. While everyone was warming up, "I asked my son if they'd laugh at me if I ran," she said. He said no. "So I ran, and I finished. It took me a long time, but I finished." She was 75 at the time. At the age of 84, she was running about 10 miles a day and running marathons in about 5.5 hours. "I like to get going," she said. "If I feel like doing something, I want to do it. I don't have to wait around for anybody else. I don't believe in spending afternoons just sitting around having tea. I do things."
How's your mental health? Dictation. The Surgeon General of the United States recently reported that 1 in 5 Americans suffers from a mental illness. Although some may feel this is overstated, imagine that 1 in 5 women will experience clinical depression in their lives, as will 1 in 7 men. 8 to 12% of the population experiences a significant anxiety disturbance. 1 in 20 children has attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD. 1% of the population has manic depression or bipolar illness. 1% of the population has schizophrenia. Through education and information, it is important to be able to look at depression, anxiety, ADHD, and sleep disorders not as weaknesses, but rather as real and medically based illnesses. Considering mental health problems to be non-medically based means that far too many will go unrecognized and untreated. The most common mental illness is depression. Different forms of depression range from short-term, low mood after a stressful life experience to an ongoing form of depression linked to decreased energy, interest, and concentration, along with changes in appetite and sleep, called major depression. Depression may also take place in women following childbirth, as well as in people during certain seasons of the year. Being unable to perform at work, having little wish to socialize, and becoming distanced from family members may all take place during depression. Depression very much needs to be viewed as a medical illness and not as a weakness. Recognizing and treating depression not only enhances life, but also saves lives.
AIDS. Dictogloss. 1. Worldwide, 15 to 24-year-olds account for half of all new infections. 2. AIDS could kill nearly 70 million people worldwide over the next 2 decades. 3. People can have HIV without knowing that they have it because they don't have symptoms. 4. You can't tell by looking at someone whether she or he has HIV. 5. HIV can be passed from one person to another through blood, semen, or vaginal fluids.
Dictation. We tend to think of disease in simple terms. Infection equals illness. It's a little different with HIV, since the virus can cause slow, subtle damage to the immune system long before an infected person will feel ill. Most health providers use the term HIV disease to identify the variety of changes a person may experience from initial infection to more advanced stages of serious life-threatening illness. About 900,000 Americans are infected with AIDS, and 1/4 of them do not know it, according to the CDC, U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Another 25% are not getting any kind of care for their disease. More than 400,000 people are going untreated for HIV, and they may be spreading it through unprotected sex or shared needles. Recent data suggests that 50,000 more people are living with HIV or AIDS than 2 years ago. There is an estimated total of between 850,000 and 950,000 currently living in the U.S. with HIV infection. Worldwide, 3 million people die of AIDS every year, and 40 million are infected, most of them in Africa. Recently, Secretary of State Colin Powell, on an international MTV town hall show that reaches 375 million homes in 164 countries, said that while he respected the views of the church, in my own judgment, condoms are a way to prevent infection, and therefore I not only support their use, I encourage their use among young people who are sexually active and need to protect themselves. In countries that have gotten past taboos and made greater use of condoms, the disease has been kept in check. In Brazil, a UN AIDS report in 2000 indicated that 87% of males aged 16 to 25 with casual sex partners were using condoms with them, a much higher rate than in AIDS-affected countries. This, combined with a drug treatment program that encourages testing for HIV, has caused Brazil's infection rate to plummet.
The Immaculate Americans. Dictation. Body odor is big business. Every year, we immaculate Americans spend more money on deodorants and mouthwashes than we contribute to the United Way charity. In addition, we probably pass more time scrubbing, washing, spraying, bathing, squirting, and gargling than any other people in the history of the world. Every American, in fact, learns from an early age that cleanliness is next to godliness, a sign that an individual is morally pure and sinless. No wonder that Americans spend more than $1 billion annually on soap. It's part of our culture. In other parts of the world, however, we are regarded as neurotically concerned with our personal cleanliness. In Europe, for example, Americans are easily identified by their demands for a room with a private bath. Meanwhile, their European counterparts usually stay in less expensive rooms where they wash up daily in a small sink and take their Saturday night baths down the hall. In their own countries, anyone caught showering twice a day would probably be regarded as either eccentric or ill. Americans can hardly take credit or blame, however, for inventing a concern for cleanliness. Sniffing and nose-kissing have long been practiced by Eskimos, Philippine Islanders, and Samoans, who recognized the desire for a pleasant odor. And bathing for purification is an ancient custom practiced by the early Hebrews, Muslims, and Hindus.
Plastics alert. According to a recent news article, we should not be using plastic containers when heating our food in the microwave. This applies especially to foods that contain fat. Researchers say that the combination of fat, high heat, and plastics releases dioxins into the food and ultimately into the cells of the body. Because dioxins are highly toxic, doctors recommend using glass or ceramic containers for heating food.
Stem cell research. Dictation. In therapeutic cloning, which seeks medical cures, genetic material from a patient is placed into a hollowed-out egg and then artificially stimulated to grow, creating an embryo genetically identical to the patient. Researchers hope to extract stem cells from these week-old embryos, then mold the flexible cells into easily used replacement tissue for patients. But the process destroys the embryo, ethically troubling many. Scientists overwhelmingly oppose implanting cloned embryos in women to produce babies, called reproductive cloning. Several maverick researchers claim to have implanted women, though no proof exists. However, many mainstream scientists worry that such attempts could proliferate as cloning becomes widespread and researchers become more proficient. Dictation 2. Stasia Poulos has 2 cats and treasures them both, but she'd never want to double the pleasure with either one of them. I'm not one for cloning. I'm not for it at all, the 23-year-old Scituate resident said when asked her opinion about researchers in Texas cloning a cat. It will lead to human cloning, and that is wrong. It's one more step. Sheep, and now this step, she said as she prepared to get on a train at the Quincy Adams MBTA station this morning. She said cloning is wrong, even if it means getting duplicates for Picky and Toledo, her 2 cats. I love them to death, but I wouldn't clone them. Jim Hyland, 33, of Braintree, said, "Leave life alone. Cats shouldn't be cloned. Nobody should be cloned. They're spending way too much money when they could be spending it on research for something useful. Find a cure for AIDS or cancer. Highland has a dog, a fox terrier named Max. I love Max. He's 12 years old, and I don't know what I would do if he died today. But when his time is up, it's up. Unfortunately, that's life.
Alternative medicine. Dictation. Not long ago, the idea of treating pain with acupuncture or hypnosis would have raised many an eyebrow within the medical mainstream. But now a growing number of hospitals are offering patients alternative or complementary therapies combined with traditional medicine. A big reason for the trend is consumer demand. A 1997 Harvard study reported that Americans made 629 million visits to alternative practitioners, compared with 386 million visits to primary care doctors, spending $27 billion, a good part of it out of pocket, on alternative treatments. Proponents say complementary techniques, particularly mind-body therapies, offer many benefits. They are non-invasive and have no side effects, and they tap into the healing power of the mind.
Dictation 2. 1. Complementary care uses variations of touch, from gentle stroking to deep tissue manipulation. The most common technique is Swedish massage, in which the muscles are stroked or kneaded with varying amounts of pressure. 2. A mind-body technique in which the patient becomes deeply relaxed. In this state, the power of suggestion is used to ease symptoms of pain. 3. According to this ancient Chinese technique, each person has an energy force called qi, which travels through channels in the body. Pain or illness results when channels become blocked. To restore flow, fine needles are inserted at specific points on the skin's surface. 4. Complementary techniques include guided imagery, a form of self-hypnosis in which the patient visualizes positive images to ease pain. Progressive muscle relaxation, in which the patient tenses, holds, and then releases muscle groups. And meditation, in which the patient tries to clear the mind by focusing on a word or sound. 5. A mind-body technique that uses sensors to measure physiological functions like muscle tension or gastrointestinal activity. As patients watch the feedback on a monitor, they become aware of how their bodies respond and learn how to control that response.
A smoking issue. Dictation. College campuses are the latest battleground for smokers and non-smokers. Since the turn of the century, cities and towns throughout the nation have forced restaurants and bars to go smoke-free. In step with the times, colleges across the country have gone smoke-free or are considering the move. Recently, Smith College banned smoking in its dorms, and the University of Connecticut followed suit. A 1999 study by the Harvard School of Public Health found that 27% of non-commuter colleges and universities banned smoking everywhere, including all residence halls, while 55% allowed it in residence halls. For smokers' rights activists, the move to ban smoking in college housing is just another step in an anti-American drive to discriminate against and control a segment of the population. Barbara O'Coin, president of the Massachusetts chapter of Fight Ordinances and Restrictions to Control and Eliminate Smoking Forces, is shocked by smoking bans in college housing. She refers to the recent rulings of local health boards to ban smoking in bars and restaurants as Nazi tactics. The choice to ban smoking should be up to the individual owners rather than the government, she said. You take away that choice and we are not Americans anymore. Kevin Croner, executive director of Northeastern University's Tobacco Control Resource Center, said, Your right to put these substances into your body should extend as far as your neighbor's lungs. A research group for student affairs and institutional research conducted a survey of 927 residential students. A majority of the students, smokers and non-smokers, said that smoking in private rooms or designated areas within some halls is the preferred policy.
Dictation 2. Judge for yourself. Vinny lived in an apartment that was directly above that of a woman who was a cigarette smoker. He filed a nuisance suit against her, claiming that the smoke came up through vents and cracks and was driving him crazy. The woman did not believe that smoking in her own home was an illegal activity. She told the judge the 6 cigarettes she smoked a day did not qualify as a nuisance, and cited the fact that there was no mention of smoking being illegal in the lease.
The verdict. The judge ruled against Vinny, ruling that the smoke from a few cigarettes a day was not a significant enough annoyance.